4 is a very interesting one. On 2 separate streaks, I was propositioned by dudes that wanted to suck my dick in the park. Typically not the outcomes that we're looking for. But welcome back, brother. Today we are going to be discussing attraction, magnetism, working differently for other people. Now, this is a very, very interesting subject. I believe that this individual who's going to share his story in just a moment is on to something very, very big. And in my experience, the outcome, the desired effect you are looking for comes at the consequence of this knowledge here, which in essence is an act of transmutation, transforming one form of energy into another. So let me not digress any further. Let us first give our appreciation for Sad Spring 2775 attraction magnetism. It works differently for everyone. So this might be a long post. If so, I apologize. Apology accepted, brother. Let's proceed. I have noticed most people seem to experience attraction or magnetism around the 14-day mark. Is this similar to you, gents? However, that has never been the case for me. I can experience both of those benefits as early as 2 to 5 days. I'm not the only person who experiences these benefits early, as others also claim to experience them very, very early. Okay, so let's just read on for a moment and then I'm going to give a little bit of my insight, add a little bit of color, gentlemen. So, a couple of examples of early attraction that this individual has experienced. During a previous streak around the day 5 mark, I had fallen asleep in my university library break room. Understandable, permissible, I get it. It's a quiet area where students can eat their food, and woke up to this pretty light-skinned girl on the sofa opposite me, watching me. A little bit creepy. And then she proceeded to introduce herself and have a conversation with me. So she initiated. We like initiation from women from time to time. Depends, might be a little bit more masculine, but who can say? And she was the one putting in all the effort and asking questions, hinting at hanging out. In my defense, I had just woken up. She ended up asking for my snap and I gave it to her. Funny thing is, she said she saw me and came over to speak to me, which makes no sense because I was fast asleep. Now, my understanding of attraction and magnetism in this essence isn't kind of congruent with the story, but maybe we can tie some connotations to my ideas in just a moment here. So let's go on to the second example, then we'll pause for just a moment. So during another streak, just on day 2 here, I was in a line at a 24-hour supermarket waiting to pay for my items. In front of me, there are 2 girls, and behind me, there are another 2. One of the girls in front of me kept looking for something. But would make sure that she was leaning into me, making it easier to see. This is called being in somebody else's orbit. Women in this way try to be a little bit more obvious. They're going to be in your orbit, as I said, so to speak, which essentially means they're trying to better be in your environment where your attention can be subverted onto theirs. So they kept making contact with my bag. The girl to my left did it a couple of times before the girl on the right did it as well. I turned to face them when the girl on my right made contact and she swiftly apologized. There was no reason to be standing so close. The shop was busy, but there was still enough room to allow freedom of movement. A luxury these girls wouldn't let me leave. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there for just a moment. Now, you can say that last particular anecdote was coincidental. Maybe, I don't know, it's his particular anecdote. Maybe you have to be there to understand this particular person's point of view. Now, what is my experience with this? And sharing it with you, you can also get these same kinds of magnetic attraction, whatever you want to call it, effects in the people around you. Now, I really believe this is a transformation from the sexual energy that you are retaining and transforming it into presence and inner state, which is why I don't believe my personal experience is congruent with some of these stories here. But I don't know, it could be. So the idea is that when you're retaining, you're conserving a lot of energy, right? You're conserving a lot of energy that would otherwise be fueled into some of the sexual neurosis that you have perhaps experienced in your previous time. And you're using that energy, you're transforming that energy to get into your body and out of your head. I have noticed very, very palpable and tangible differences in how people respond to me when I'm not trying to logically talk about a conversation or trying to rationalize the information they're telling me. I'm just trying to get into my body and out of my head. So I'm speaking more emotively at these stages. I'm speaking the language of energy here. I'm circumventing the linear way you approach a conversation and just getting to the deep stuff instead of lovely weather we're having today, huh? What's your name, madam? What do you do for work? No, I'm circumventing that by using my body, my tone to get to the deeper questions, and people respond to that, especially women, because women are more emotive beings in that way. Now, I've said before, I know this isn't typically congruent with what this individual is saying here, but it may be the case that because he's more in his body, he's more comfortable, he is exuding that same kind of presence. When he's at the supermarket, he's just being in his body. You know, he's not scanning the room. You see that when you go into like a new environment, people scan the room. Where are the women? Where are the men? You know, they scan. They're thinking, oh, I can go and do this. They're in their heads. They're not in their body, relaxed. This guy fell asleep at university in front of everybody. I couldn't. Well, maybe I could do that now, but I couldn't have done that back then because you're anxious. Your defenses are down. You know, everybody's very, very heady, very, very nervous, anxious energy. No, relax. I can fall asleep here. I'm just at the supermarket, getting ready to pay for my stuff. I'm just in my body. I'm not in my head, not scanning, you know, in my body. And this is the critical difference. There's something called, I hate the term alpha, as you gentlemen know, but this idea, if you're of a higher quality man, in substitution for that word that I completely despise, your area of comfort gets wider and wider and wider. Meaning, if I'm at a hotel, right? And this is when I used to do a lot of, freelance work for the NHS. I used to go to hotels and I used to do a lot of training there. So when I go to these hotels, I'd be very, very comfortable because I've gone to the hotel loads of times before. And what I would do is I would just leave my belongings all over the hotel. Like I would just leave my jacket on the sofa, walk up, go to the toilet, go to another room, get a drink, get a coffee. And my jacket's just in there with my car keys and bits and pieces. And then another kind of person goes, oh, I can't leave my jacket there. I can't leave. What if somebody steals my car? There's a drastic difference in that kind of frame. It's where you're more relaxed in these kinds of environment and you're not so neurotic, you're not so anxious about what could happen. And this might be another way where you can convey to the individuals around you that you're attractive, you're at peace, you're present, and you're magnetic. It's very, very affectionate. Affectionate isn't the correct word. It's very, very transcendent. It's very, very attractive to see an individual that's just at peace with their environment because their relaxed energy imparts onto you. You also start to feel at peace with yourself when you get out of your body and into your head. But if somebody's up scanning around, taking their things with them, you know, it has an effect on you. We're very, very impressionable beings, and the energy another person gives us around us, we are also going to resonate. So if somebody's very present, very at peace, very, very calm, as a consequence of the transmutation of that sexual energy, it's going to have an effect on everybody else. This is real. And if you haven't experienced this, it comes at a consequence of being more present. So I'm just going to continue here. I think there's a couple more examples, a little bit longer. Let's go to number 3 here. So during one streak a few years ago, I didn't know about retention and nofap at this case. I was on day 4 when I was on my way to work at the train station. This particular station had benches everywhere, and each bench had 3 seats. I'm alone on one of these benches, but on the far left seat, when these 3 beautiful blondes walked into the station, you'd think they'd go and sit on the other benches away. Of course, there's more room. Nope, they decided to join my bench, which is funny because one of them had to stand in front of the bench while they were conversating, and she kept looking over at me, giving the eyes. 4 is a very interesting one. On 2 separate streaks, I was propositioned by dudes that wanted to suck my dick in the park. Typically not the outcomes that we're looking for. Most men, I think, are, well, it doesn't really matter what persuasion you are, but maybe not the outcome that a lot of us are kind of seeking here. Both kept talking about how handsome I am and how good I am to talk to. Funny thing is, I was very aloof. Nothing wrong with liking dudes, but I don't concur with you there, my friend. Let's just see what this individual's rationalization is, and I'll kind of tie a nice little neat bow onto this gentleman. So now I may be wrong here, But I think the reason some might experience this early is because they were already attractive but never saw themselves in that way. That is a great way to frame it. It's your personal perception of what is your internal narrative. If you're a good looking man or if you're not good looking man. And those internal thoughts have an effect on your emotion, which has an effect on how you behave, which has an effect on how people respond to you. Even when I was PMOing constantly, I'd still get some attraction for girls, but I was too much of a pussy to do anything about it. Yeah, they're sensing your nervous energy. They're not approaching you. Yeah, I've always been a skinny dude, but I thought I was always considered cute or handsome, to the point where some people when I was younger thought I was a girl at first. But after finding porn, somehow I convinced myself I was ugly and my self-esteem took a big hit. Now, I think this is really important information if you don't really buy into the esoteric aspect of SR, which is fine, by the way. That's completely cool. But it's about self-image. The reason, even if I'm talking to the most if I'm talking to a scientist about this and they're watching porn, the number one thing I just say is, if you stop watching this kind of degenerate material, you're going to have a higher opinion of yourself. You will feel less shame. You will feel less guilt. You will feel less negative emotion holistically. What do you think are the consequences of feeling less shame, less emotion, less negative emotion on your person? Could it be you have more confidence, more self-esteem, that you hold yourself differently in these kind of environments, that you're less in your head and anxious and more into your body? Yes. The answer is yes. I'm going to cut this particular Reddit post early and just lead with that. Is magnetism attraction, even if you don't believe in the esoteric elements of it, comes at a consequence of energy. I've shown you Dawkinson scale before. Shame and guilt resonate at the lowest energetic frequency across the board. If you reduce the experience of shame, anxiety, and negative emotions by ridding yourself of this degenerate material, conserving that energy, building your self-esteem up, not anxiously thinking about what other people's perceptions are of you as a consequence of your neurotic tendencies, you will be more present, more confident, more attractive, and people will be more inclined to approach you as a consequence of that relaxed, attractive, magnetic energy you so portray. Gentlemen, these are only theories, but I think there's some facts in there, certainly. If you subscribe to that, subscribe to me, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Take care.